Good afternoon. Today is February 3rd. Yeah, February 3rd, 2017. And in the last week, I've had the opportunity to sit down and do a little text chatting with some of my friends, and we have decided to record some video stories. So this particular video isn't kind of in keeping with the theme of my channel, Search for Truth Reality. This is just a bit more of some personal stuff. And what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about some military experiences. So if this isn't your bag of goodies, you can go ahead and stop the video now and move on. For everybody else, welcome. Glad you're here. I will tell you, I will start with this. I was 95 Bravo, combat military police. I enlisted in the Army back in late 1980. I was on the delayed entry program for 18 months and started my active duty service in 1982. I trained at Fort McClellan, Alabama. From there, I got my orders to Germany. I was destined to be basically a tower rat. I was going to be one of these guys at a NATO site. I was PRP qualified. Supposed to be one of these guys securing these nuke sites. When I got to the replacement detachment in Frankfurt, they saw my jacket and said, you know, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a tower rat, or do you want to work garrison? Well, I didn't know what garrison meant, and before I can get the question out, the replacement person decided to send me to 3rd Infantry Division, 3rd Military Police Company, or at least the detachment, the replacement detachment at 3rd Infantry Division headquarters. I hadn't had a home yet. I didn't know where I was going, but I remember arriving there and sitting down to lunch at the chow hall. It was like my first breakfast, and I met a sergeant who actually worked he worked at the provost marshal's office, and I think he performed this role as a desk sergeant, I think, and didn't see him much. I just kind of associated headquarters with him. But I guess he did some scrambling, and I met some other sergeants, and I wound up getting assigned to 3rd Military Police Company Heavy Platoon, which was right next door to the replacement detachment. I guess they were short some people. There was a big need for a military police there. Anyhow, so that was how I got into the Heavy Platoon. I don't know what you guys experienced, but you know I'm from California. I mean, look around me. Look at this is February. This is winter. This is California winter. It's not raining. It did last week a little bit, but you know, you get one big storm a year and that's about it. And I'm looking at this gorgeous sunset right now. I can see the beach. I can see the marine layer starting to roll in here, you know, late afternoon. It's a beautiful day. I'm here in a jacket. It's probably about 65 degrees. That's probably about as cold as it gets. Sometimes it gets down to 50. But this is the weather I'm used to, you know, light jackets, you know, just light layer, you know, and you're off to the races. So I think one of the first field problems I had was that RTEP, you know, what our platoon sergeant calls frozen chosen. Now I'm going to tell a story here that involves some less than popular people in our unit, and I'm not going to name names. I'm just going to describe them. You guys will know who they are. If you want to name them, that's up to you. But personally, I'm not going to go there. I'll just describe them, and you'll know who they are, and everybody can get the gist of it. So I remember being in the helicopter. I remember that being a lot of fun riding that thing, because, you know, it's like a roller coaster ride. They're, you know, flying close to the train, treetops, you know, banking. We had the doors open, and it was fun. It was a fun ride. And then, you know, it was going to land, and we're going to get out. But the problem is the craft doesn't land. You have to get out while it's still hovering. Look, I didn't have any problem with that. My dad had always told me, never volunteer to jump out of a perfectly good aircraft, and, you know, I did that. You know, I didn't volunteer for any of that stuff. I didn't volunteer air assault when they asked at military police school. I didn't volunteer for airborne when they asked for that at military police school, because my father had trained me well. Don't jump out of perfectly good aircraft. Now here he was. I had no choice, so I clearly had to make an exception. That side of the aircraft, you know, goes on a hillside like this, right? Here's a helicopter. Here's a hillside. They had it easy. They said, boop, they just stepped out. On this side where I was sitting, it's about a 15, 20-foot drop. Now, maybe just 15 feet, but it was enough. I looked down, I saw this white fluffy stuff. I figured, well, it's fine. So, I'll hit the fluffy stuff and everything will be okay. So I jump out. The problem is it wasn't fluffy. It was pretty hard and slippery. And I shot down the hill and right into a frozen creek. And the helicopter flies up, and I had to double time it back up the hill to join the rest of the guys in the tree line there. Yeah, not fun being wet and cold. I remember, when you get really cold, you feel the pinpricks, on your body. It was like coming through my feet, and my feet were really feeling incredibly cold. I'd only been there, 10 minutes, and I remember saying something probably a little louder than I should have about that, but it was at least loud enough for our then platoon sergeant, who's now passed on. I think he used to live in New Jersey, but you know who I'm talking about. Great guy. He takes off his overboots and he gave them to me, and I put them on my feet, and I realized quickly the value of cold weather wear. My feet warmed up great. I didn't have any problems for the rest of the time that we spent out there in the field with my feet. My hands, on the other hand, that's a whole other story. I wound up getting frostbite. I think a lot of us did on our hands and fingers and stuff. But anyhow, I want to tell a specific story of an experience with my platoon, what do you call him? Not platoon, excuse me, team leader. I think that's what you call him. He didn't embody leader very well, but okay, he was a rotund fellow who had some combat experience from Vietnam, and we didn't have a lot of respect for this guy, but just the same, he was my team leader. Anyhow, after being out there for 8 days and no sleep, I was at a point where I was so exhausted. I mean, I was falling asleep standing up, catching myself halfway down. Sometimes I didn't catch myself, and I'd wake up when my knees hit the ground. Rather painful experience. On the third day, I remember seeing flashes of light, but on day 8 with no sleep, I remember not even being able to communicate well. I couldn't formulate a sentence. I remember every passing second was a struggle to stay awake. So to describe what that feels like to those of you who've never experienced that before, it's a lot like being in the car. You're on a long drive, maybe it's late at night, and maybe you've driven a little too long and you feel like you're tired. The sensation you get where you're just kind of nodding off a little bit like that? That's your indication where it's time to pull over and maybe get a hotel room or something, or pull over in a rest stop and get some sleep. It was like that every second, for just days, just constantly doing that. And by the time day 8 rolled around and all of us were to get in our Jeeps. Now we drove Jeeps, not the Humvees. This was before the Humvees, and the nomenclature was M151A2 1/4 ton utility truck, which had a trailer, and we were configured such that we didn't have doors or roof on the vehicles. We had to pull that stuff off because we're being completely tactical. We're being tested of how we would perform, if we ever went to war. And so we had our machine gun mounts with the M60s on there, and you can't have an M60 mount with the hood on. The thing that compounded this joyous affair was that we didn't have heat in the Jeeps either. No heat. And it's -1 below zero. And the apes in the Frankfurt Zoo are freezing to death. And we're out there training in that. So day 8, I'm exhausted. I can't think. I can't walk. I can't talk. I can't do any of this. I've already experienced hypothermia, nearly froze to death out there. That's another story. I'll tell that one later. But now I remember going to my team leader, the rotund fellow, and told him I can't drive, and he just told me to get my blankety blank in the Jeep and drive. I'm like, yes, Sergeant. So I got in the Jeep and hoped for the best, and we moved out. And I don't know where we were going. All I know, I had to follow the Jeep in front of me, which I did. We got on the Autobahn. Vehicles are driving by, because we can only drive so fast. These are military trucks, right? Here comes the water splashing in. You're experiencing wind chill factors of easily -50, -60 degrees out there, and you're trying to keep your face from freezing out while you're doing this stuff. It's crazy. And I remember I couldn't see the speedometer. My vision was completely blurred. It was just red. It was just red glow, and it didn't make it any better for the taillights I was following. I was keeping an eyeball on the taillights of the Jeep in front of me. They were vacillating and kind of dancing around like this. I didn't know up from down, and that was about the time that I had passed out, and my steel pot went clunk. It hit the steering wheel, and I opened my eyes, and I saw a black leather glove on the steering wheel, and the sound over here. Your hearing goes too. You go 8 days no sleep, everything is gone. And it was just like this wah, 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 wah for the longest time. And I took a deep breath, like that, and I was kind of snoring, as I was waking up, trying to come out of this stupor. And finally, I could hear this noise that was coming from, next to me, and it was our friendly rotund sergeant who told me to get my blankety-blank in the Jeep and drive, and he was now saying, "Pull it over now." My foot is mashed on the gas pedal, and he's driving there, and I'm not even fully conscious. Pull it over now. Okay, good idea. I'll pull over. So he decides to drive, and he tells me not to fall asleep. So anyhow, that's my story. I'm going to stick with that. I had to buy this and paint it and put the stickers on and make this. That's why I still have one. Some of y'all with the unit, you had to go down to supply and get yours, but I had to make my own. Anyhow, I'm keeping this hat. I don't care what you all say. Anyhow, thank you for watching. I'll just stay tuned for more. I'll hopefully have some of the guys send over their videos, and I'll cut them together and post them here on my channel. Thank you for watching. If you got a military story, a Cold War story, a funny story, I urge you to give it a post it, share it. Let us see what you got. I'd love to hear some of your experiences as well. Anyhow, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.